Hello and welcome to iLit Lesson D2.39. Today we will focus on inferencing, vocabulary knowledge, and applying what you have learned. Let's get started. Savoring. The hikers were savoring the beauty of the sunset. Other forms of the word: savor, savors, savored, savory. Hesitant. Pablo was hesitant to buy the expensive car. Antonyms for hesitant: eager, certain, ready, decided. Remember that antonyms mean the opposite. Assigned, gave as a share, allotted. The teacher assigned the next 10 problems for us to work on. Correcting, changing to what is right, removing mistakes or faults from. I will spend time correcting the mistakes in my essay. Introduced, brought into acquaintance with, made known. The teacher introduced the new student to the class. Learned, gain knowledge or skill. The children will learn how to make a paper airplane. Today we are going to continue reading from the excerpt of The Circuit. As the main character or protagonist of this novel, Panchito is a dynamic character. A dynamic character develops and learns something during the course of a story. Today I'll be asking you to make inferences by using clues from the text to figure out something the author does not state directly. Making an inference involves figuring out ideas the author is trying to get across to the reader. Inferences help readers connect more fully to the text. When I start reading, please think about: how does Panchito feel while he is working? How does he feel at the end of the day? What happens when Panchito's father sees a school bus? We will start at this point in the story. After several months in the field with his father and brother, things change for Panchito. Today we will read about what happens when Panchito finally gets to go to school. It was Monday, the first week of November. The grape season was over, and I could now go to school. I woke up early that morning and lay in bed, looking at the stars and savoring the thought of not going to work and of starting 6th grade for the first time that year. Since I could not sleep, I decided to get up and join Papa and Roberto at breakfast. I sat at the table across from Roberto, but kept my head down. I did not want to look up and face him. I knew he was sad. He was not going to school today. He was not going tomorrow or next week or next month. He would not go until the cotton season was over, and that was sometime in February. I rubbed my hands together and watched the dry, acid-stained skin fall to the floor in little rolls. Wow, that last sentence was a really great visual of rubbing his hands together and the skin is falling into little rolls. Wow. Okay, 2 questions I'd like you to think about. Why does Panchito have to wait until November to go to school? And why doesn't Roberto get to go to school until February? When Papa and Roberto left for work, I felt relief. I walked to the top of a small grade next to the shack and watched the car Cachita disappear in the distance in a cloud of dust. 2 hours later, around 8 o'clock, I stood by the side of the road waiting for school bus number 20. When it arrived, I climbed in. Everyone was busy either talking or yelling. I sat in an empty seat in the back. When the bus stopped in front of the school, I felt very nervous. I looked out of the bus window and saw boys and girls carrying books under their arms. I put my hands in my pant pockets and walked to the principal's office. When I entered, I heard a woman's voice say, "May I help you?" I was startled. I had not heard English for months. For a few seconds, I remained speechless. I looked at the lady, who waited for an answer. My first instinct was to answer her in Spanish, but I held back. Finally, after struggling for English words, I managed to tell her that I wanted to enroll in 6th grade. After answering many questions, I was led to the classroom. Mr. Lima, the 6th grade teacher, greeted me and assigned me a desk. He then introduced me to the class. I was so nervous and scared at that moment when everyone's eyes were on me that I wished I were with Papa and Roberto picking cotton. After taking roll, Mr. Lima gave the class the assignment for the first hour. The first thing we have to do this morning is finish reading the story we began yesterday, he said enthusiastically. He walked up to me, handed me an English book, and asked me to read. We're on page 125, he said politely. We're going to pause here for a moment. I'd like you to think of these 3 questions. How does Panchito feel about his first day in 6th grade? Do you think it is difficult for Panchito to fit in when he goes to a new school? If you were in Panchito's position, would you rather work or go to school? When I heard this, I felt my blood rush to my head. I felt dizzy. Would you like to read? He asked hesitantly. I opened the book to page 125. My mouth was dry. My eyes began to water. I could not begin. You can read later, Mr. Lima said understandingly. During recess, I went into the restroom and opened my English book to page 125. I began to read in a low voice, pretending I was in class. There were many words I did not know. I closed the book and headed back to the classroom. Mr. Lima was sitting at his desk correcting papers. When I entered, he looked up at me and smiled. I felt better. I walked up to him and asked if he could help me with the new words. Gladly, he said. I would like you to think about, why does Mr. Lima tell Panchito he can read later? Also, one thing I want to point out to you. We have talked about adding adverbs and adverb prepositional phrases to sentences to explain when, where, and how. The author uses many such words and phrases in the text we just read. During recess tells when. Into the restroom tells where. In a low voice tells how. Can you find 3 adverbs ending in ly that also answer how? Pause here and look for them. See if you can find all 3 before going on. The rest of the month, I spent my lunch hours working on English with Mr. Lima, my best friend at school. One Friday, during our lunch hour, Mr. Lima asked me to take a walk with him to the music room. Do you like music? He asked me as we entered the building. Yes, I like corridos, I answered. He then picked up a trumpet and blew on it and handed it to me. The sound gave me goosebumps. I knew that sound. I had heard it in many corridos. How would you like to learn to play it? He asked. He must have read my face because before I could answer, he added, I'll teach you how to play it during our lunch hours. That day, I could hardly wait to tell Mama and Papa the great news. As I got off the bus, my little brothers and sister ran up to meet me. They were yelling and screaming. I thought they were happy to see me. But when I opened the door to our shack, I saw that everything we owned was neatly packed in cardboard boxes. Here are some questions to think about. How long does Panchito spend in his new school? Then what happens? What lesson can the reader learn from this story? Finally, what have you learned about migrant farm workers? Here we notice the question, why does Panchito refer to Mr. Lima as his best friend? We also need to think about, why is Panchito so excited at the thought of learning to play the trumpet? What does the trumpet symbolize to him? If you've paid attention this whole time, the word corridos is our secret word for this challenge. Please make sure that you enter in the word corridos to the Canvas assignment to show that you have watched this whole lesson. This week, your task is going to be to write a narrative essay. I really look forward to hearing about your experiences. Also, by tomorrow, do some Quizlet practice. When we get together with our class conversation in Zoom, you're going to have a Quizlet challenge. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful rest of your day.